when we call it prisons and stuff.
Well, your school, prison, it's all the same institution. It is a prison. They've criminalized you, and they figured you to be a criminal when you were in third grade based on some test you took. This is what they have in their heads. You continue to do what you're doing. You're not a criminal. They have criminalized us. Again, like I said, they can call us what they choose to call us. It is what we respond to. So you just keep doing what you're doing. I have no idea why. I didn't go to school with metal detectors and cops. Things have changed because of the increase in criminalizing our youth, our neighborhoods. You're gonna have to take this one.
I don't want to be overbearing and be the only one talking.
No.
I want to learn from you guys
You were
too.
incarcerated, and having been incarcerated, that makes us experts on it. Okay?
Well, no, I don't take away from my expertise.
Yeah.
That's for sure. I learned a long time ago that there is a direct relationship between the school systems, the Department of Corrections of prisons, the governor's office, and our communities, and they all feed it off of each other. And there is such a thing called the school to prison pipeline, and we know about that movement. And she mentioned it with regards to criminalizing. So what's a solution? A solution is that we as a community need to take more, take charge in how our children are treated inside the school system. So we need to organize, we need to mobilize, we need to take over when it comes to the school system and make sure that the people who we elect and are put in positions of power, the school chancellor, we talk to the people in our assembly, we talk to all of our legislators, to all the people who are in charge of placing and deciding that we need to have these metal detectors and we need to have these police, and the way that's handled, we need to have a say in that. You need to have a say in that. As someone, those closest to the problem are closest to the solution, our children's voices need to be heard, listened to, and then that needs to translate into policy.
Thank you. I would just add one other thing to that. I remember sitting in a room having a conversation with social workers a couple of years ago, and one of them who was working in a school setting, and she talked about two children having a fist fight in the yard, and she referred to it as an offense. And I was so struck by this social worker adopting the language of law enforcement to describe what to me was an ass kicking back in the days. We're not an offense. And if you call something an offense and you have law enforcement around, if you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And if you're an officer, your response is a pair of handcuffs. So I would just sort of turn the lens on our allies also. 7 minutes. Got it. Let's keep going this direction.
Hi, my name's David. Thank you again to the panelists for being here today. My question is directed primarily towards Erica. So I've actually just started an organization to unpack a lot of the dialogues around sexual offending. And while I don't want to discount the needs of survivors, I was wondering, how do we create a space where we can include the narratives of people who are actually on the registry, so that way we can try and make something more just and equitable?
Yeah, thanks for that. Great question. I mean, nationally, we have an organization, Reform Sex Offender Laws, and there's many state chapters of those. I mean, that entity is in Illinois, it's called Illinois Voices. I'm not sure what it's called in New York, and there's also statewide organizations in the 20 states that have people who are civilly committed. So I think, those organizations are often pretty isolated. Those are often the whitest rooms that I go into that have anything to do with prison issues, and some of those organizations also can be anti-feminist, right? But I think that those are some of the few organizations that are really trying to lift up the voices and trying to push back on people who are on registries or registrants. So I think that there's that layer of work, and then somewhat disconnected is the work of from that kind of layer and that movement is the work of great organizations like the Audre Lorde Project here in New York, the former Generation 5 out of Seattle, many organizations that are trying to end sexual violence, in particular child sexual violence, without engaging the state in criminalization. So I think one of the moments that we're at right now is we're pretty fragmented or siloed or bifurcated. We have a mainstream prison justice movement that has had a history and a difficulty incorporating people with convictions for sex offenses. We have feminist movements that have been aligned with the state or aligned with criminalization as the law and order or the public safety response. And then we have people who who are trying to organize, and friends and family members of people on the registry, right? So I think that this is the moment to see that those interests are converged, and we need to be building movements that can talk across differences, can build shared analysis, can share strategies, can lift up and center the voices of people most impacted by these systems, right? And all at the same time, keeping our eye on the prize, the dismantling white supremacist, capitalist, heteropatriarchy, right? So I think, thanks for that question. And I think it's, we can talk afterward about some specific orgs too.
Thank you. One last question from that side of the room. I'll let the person with the microphone be the one to take the blame here.
Hi, I'm glad you guys came and shared today. My son was shot on August 9th by a 21-year-old. He was 21, and he had a fight with a kid, and the kid came back at night and shot him. My son died the day after my birthday, which was September 16th of 2016. So he had turned 21 in April. He wasn't a gang member. It was nothing like that. It was like you said, two kids having a fist fight. One couldn't take the ass whipping. So what I have to say today is I'd like to see more programs for like the youth, more in the terms of prevention. I know we're talking a lot today about prison reform, and I'd like to see more money being poured and more ideas towards getting the person from becoming the criminal. For like high school, I know he left behind a 16-year-old brother, so he has a brother, a mother, and all those people that's affected. But if we could save the youth, because to answer her question, my son's school, kids were bringing guns into the school. So like Aisha said, when we were going to school, they weren't metal detectors. But things started happening, and the youth has changed. The youth are bringing weapons into the school, so they have to protect the teachers and everybody. So that's to answer the youth question. But I'd like to get myself involved with prevention for if I could prevent something, then I won't have to spend so much money once the problem becomes. If I could keep the youth from catching HIV and AIDS, then I won't have to spend so much money once they've caught AIDS. So in education prevention, and I remember if we could bring some of the YMCAs back, the Boys and Girls Clubs, now they're costing money. I remember when I went to school when I was young, we always had after school program. We had the Y, we had Harlem, we had the bathhouse, we had Reading Was Fundamental, we had summer youth programs. We were into so many agencies, and I don't recall my mother spending a dime. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. I think that's actually the right place for us to end, because as much as we started with the conversation about victims and offenders, and we started with individuals, the truth is that as this conversation played out, I think we heard a lot about state-sponsored violence. And I think that the disinvestment in those efforts and the investment in our criminal justice system is one of the worst forms of state-sponsored violence, and has led us down the road of where we are today. As we run the campaign at Just Leadership USA to shut down Rikers Island, something I first mentioned in this room a year ago, and even half the audience sort of said, that'll never happen. And here we are a year later, and the conversation is not about can we shut it down, but how can we shut it down? And the reason I bring that up is to say that this system exists because we allow it to, because we wake up every day and believe in it. And so as much as it's daunting to think of how to undo the system that has created so much havoc, so much human carnage, be reminded that you as an individual have the opportunity to no longer believe in this thing that we've collectively built. And that is the power instilled in every single person in this room to help undo mass incarceration and to help go from criminalization to humanization. Let's thank the panelists for their courage and for their intelligence and for sharing with us. I want to turn it back over to Michelle to take us out. Thank you, everyone.
I just want to honor that last story. I'm not sure that we have collectively responded, but I thank you. Boy, this was an amazing panel, and I thank you. And Aisha, it's a good thing you came home. We certainly needed you back. I think I just wanna make two comments. One is a hybrid of so many of the comments made. I'm doing a lot of work with LGBTQ youth of color. And at a recent gathering, one of the young women said, when I walk down the street alone, I'm okay. But when I'm walking arm in arm with my girlfriend, the police say, I want to fuck both of you. And then everybody did this, as though that were... So I want that in the mix of when we're talking about sexual violence. And then a young gender queer young person with a baseball cap named Jay, brown-skinned, said... I don't know, whenever I get stopped and frisked, which was just like the beginning of the sentence, as though that were normal. Whenever I get stopped and frisked, because I appear female, when the cops frisk me and grab my crotch, then they beat the shit out of me. So again, I want those stories in the room because those sit at the intersection of a whole set of struggles. And at the same time that we talk about that, I want to trouble mandated reporting. Because I remember days of Head Start, friends working at Head Start, where moms could say, I'm having a hard time. I'm thinking of hurting my kid. And my friends would say, let me help you, hon. We're going to build this back. And now all of those people are mandated reporters. And so I want to say something for the mothers who were named on the panel, both of your moms. Remember your resistance diaries and your radical imaginations? I want us to imagine what would have happened. What would the world look like if those moms were helped? Right? Because I have foster kids. I've heard too many stories of moms who, and I get it. I get why the young people want to run back because they love them no matter what. And how hard that is. But I want us to imagine not just how to save the baby, but what would have had to be possible for both of your moms to be in a different space. And my last point, and then I free you to lunch, is if we are breaking up with the state, what are we putting in its place? And are we breaking up with public and tax dollars? And could we imagine schools that aren't criminalizing and offensive and horrifying? Could we imagine communities that are safe with public resources? Because the Republicans would love us to break up, but they're about to abandon us all anyway. So if we're breaking up with the state, what has to be in its place? And some of it is working with community for restorative justice, but some of it is demanding that some of those tax dollars be renegotiated by community for community. Manning Maribel had an old notion of separating where the resources come and who makes the decisions, so that Black community. So I just think this breaking up with the state thing's like a really good idea for those of us who are ever in love. But what happens in its place? And Aisha's got something to say, and I got to do it.
I just wanted to tell a young lady over here, they're metal detectors and they're frisking you. They want you to quit school. They want to deter you from going in the building. Don't quit. Just keep going. And a lot of the things that the mother who lost her 21-year-old son said, there are some great ideas, some suggestions, and some solutions in the Psychology of Freedom. It is a book that Mr. G.S. Brooks wrote. And I am in the process of editing it, but you can get an unedited copy. It's called The Psychology of Freedom, written by G.S. Brooks. Check it out.
Thank you, Aisha. Can we just thank the panel, welcome Aisha home, and lunch is in the basement. And wait, go. Sorry.
Thank you all. I know it's been a long morning, and we wanted you to get off to lunch pretty quickly. My name is Wei Sheng. I'm with Beyond the Bars Fellows. And in addition to the panels, I just want to point your attention to a few other programs that's going on. We have a Roots of Resistance, an exhibit, which is across the hall and down the hall. And then we have a video booth that's also in the area. And we also have a photo booth to tell you a story. There's a lot going on in the room. And then we also have community tabling that's off to the right. And if you want to get lunch, because I know the resistance need to be fed, please take the elevators and the stairs if you can. And things are running a little bit behind schedule, so please, we thank you for your patience. And the next plenary will be in this room at 2:15. Thank you all.
All of us are none. We're linked. We're linked. I hope you know. On the count is linked with you. And every time I see you guys post something, I'm retweeting. I'm not gonna move right here. 1 second. Just real quick. Oh, hi. Yes. Thank you. No, thank you. I appreciate it.